Good morning, Sabah khair. Assalamu alaikum. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to so many of you here in the audience and those of you online. I'd like to thank the co-hosts for organizing this terrific event today. The Center for Contemporary Arab Studies at Georgetown University, Democracy for the Arab World Now, and the Tawakkol Karman Foundation. I especially look forward to hearing the conclusions of today's conference, particularly proposed solutions to end the war once and for all, and that can lead to the withdrawal of foreign forces from Yemen. I'm pleased to share the podium this morning with Sarah Lee Whitson, Professor Adali, Tawakkol Karman, and others throughout the day, especially those of you who are from Yemen. I'm glad to see so many convene today to participate in this discussion to ensure that Yemen stays in the spotlight, given the multitude of global issues. I'd like to start by reiterating the United States' commitment to advancing an inclusive, durable resolution to the conflict in Yemen. And in that vein, I want to associate myself with the comments of every speaker so far about the importance of peace and democracy in Yemen. We may disagree over the course of today or in the future about how to get there, but it seems to me that we do share the same goal. And I'd like to assure all of you that I, as the U.S. envoy to Yemen, will continue unwavering efforts to achieve that. And I believe the President in this administration is firmly committed to that also. We haven't always had that in the past, and I think that's a major contribution at this particular point. We recognize that only an inclusive, durable resolution can reverse the country's dire humanitarian crisis. After 8 years of war and division, over 8 years of war and division have devastated Yemen's economy and pushed its institutions to the brink. Families have been left unable to buy basic goods, feed their children, or access basic care. Only a comprehensive Yemeni political agreement and recovery process can begin to repair these institutions and rebuild Yemen's economy. Through consistent, intensive engagement, the United States has helped mobilize a strong international and regional consensus around peace efforts under the auspices of the UN, and I sincerely hope that today's event will continue to inform that process. We continue to see proactive, constructive efforts by the Sultanate of Oman, which have played a critical role in peace efforts. We also continue to see a commitment from Saudi Arabia to help end the war, and that helped enable an unprecedented period of calm in 2022. Because of these collective efforts and commitment from the region and the international community to bolster UN peace-led efforts in Yemen, the United States believes that 2023, this year, ladies and gentlemen, brings new opportunities to end the conflict once and for all. And we must take advantage of these to truly end this terrible conflict. Yemenis deserve a prosperous future, and we remain committed to supporting Yemeni efforts to shape a brighter future. While many observers seek to present easy solutions to the conflict in Yemen, the reality is that the situation is complex, and meaningful diplomatic solutions take time. As many of you know better than I do, the roots of the war stem from the disruption of Yemen's peaceful transition process in 2014. The tensions and challenges that process sought to resolve have only continued to fester over 8 years of war. That includes fundamental questions like the status of southern Yemen, which Yemenis can and should decide for themselves. The UN-led 6-month truce from April to October 2022, and the period of relative calm that has continued even after the formal expiration of the truce provide a valuable opportunity. First, cross-border attacks have stopped, including 0 coalition airstrikes since March 2022. Second, civilian casualties from the fighting have dropped dramatically, even as casualties from landmines and other remnants of war remain a major issue that must not be ignored or forgotten. Third, fuel is flowing more freely into northern Yemen. And last, commercial flights are continuing from Sana'a Airport. More than 40,000 Yemenis have been able to take advantage of these flights for family reunification, for medical care outside of Yemen. These flights have saved lives. I've just pointed to 4 benefits that have helped ease the suffering of Yemenis since March 2022. They're not enough, but they do represent a start. And for that reason, we urge the Yemeni parties to take advantage of this opportunity, build on these benefits by starting political talks under UN auspices to resolve this conflict. The United States understands the parties' focus on economic measures. We agree that the economic crisis across the country is a main driver of the humanitarian crisis. We agree that urgent efforts are needed to ease this economic crisis and stitch Yemen's institutions back together. But the reality is that this can only be accomplished as part of an inclusive, Yemeni-led political process. The Houthis have focused their latest demands on paying public sector salaries using Yemen's hydrocarbon revenues. These public sector salaries are a lifeline for many Yemenis. But it was the Houthis' escalation of these demands, and only these demands, that prevented a formal extension of the truce in October. A truce extension that would have expanded the benefits beyond public sector salaries. While at different times many parties have exacerbated the economic crisis, more recently, multiple Houthi attacks against Yemeni ports and international shipping in recent months have grounded oil export revenues to a halt. This halt in oil export revenues has deprived millions of Yemenis of resources that were used to pay civil servant salaries and provide basic services. All this while other hydrocarbon exports have been paused for years. Dialogue is the only way to resolve this issue. There is no military solution to the Yemen conflict, and there is no benefit that can come from a return to military hostilities by any party. Only by sitting down with other Yemeni parties can Yemenis reach a solution to pay civilian salaries and start getting money in the hands of families across the country. The Yemen government has formed its own negotiating team. The Houthis so far have refused to sit down with them. We urge the Houthis to change this approach, choose peace. The world is watching their and the other parties' actions and inaction. We know these kinds of political and economic discussions will be difficult, including for Yemenis in the southern governorates, home to most of these hydrocarbon resources. But only by tackling these issues can there be hope to reach a durable resolution that stops the fighting and reverses the economic crisis in Yemen. To sum up, an inclusive political process between the Yemeni parties is a critical first step. But durable peace and recovery require much more. A peace process must incorporate Yemenis' calls for justice and accountability for human rights violations and abuses, along with efforts to repair the deep divisions within Yemeni society. A recovery process will need to follow, and Yemen will require a major recovery effort that is supported by the international community and carefully managed and coordinated with the peace process. This recovery process must lay the foundation for the kind of expanded economic cooperation between Yemen and the region that will enable sustainable growth and prosperity. All of these efforts must be inclusive and incorporate voices from across the country, including from women and marginalized groups. Although it will take time, a comprehensive peace and recovery process is essential for the people of Yemen, the youngest of whom have only known war. The United States remains committed to working closely with our partners in the region, the Yemeni people, and beyond to support this process and to support Yemenis as they determine a brighter future for their country. Thank you very much.